हरे कृष्णा। नमो विष्णुपदाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामिनिति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा. So I thank you very much for returning back for the part 3 of this course, Rediscovering Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti. So it has been a very wonderful experience sharing the teachings of Srila Rupa Goswami and Srila Prabhupada with all of you the last almost 12 days. For part 1 was 5 days, but 1.5 hours each. Then we trimmed it off to 1 hour, and part 2 has been 7 days. And part 3 will be another 7 days. We will continue this discussion. We have been discussing about the angas of devotional service, the 64 limbs, in which we have been discussing the scriptural proofs for the 64 limbs of devotional service. Of the 64, we have seen the scriptural proofs for the first 4 limbs. Adav Guru Padashraya, the first limb being taking shelter of the lotus feet of Guru. And the second limb we saw Shri Krishna Dikshadi Sikshanam, taking Diksha and Siksha from the Guru. And in this we discussed what is this Diksha, is Diksha compulsory, can't I progress in bhakti without taking Diksha, isn't the holy name powerful enough to deliver a practitioner without Diksha. All these discussions we had on the other day, that is yesterday. And then we saw the third limb, Vishrambena Guror Seva, serving the Guru with reverence. And then we saw the fourth limb, which is Sadhu Vartma Anuvartanam, following the scriptural rules as taught by the sadhus. So this is where we ended. And then we ended this discussion of this particular limb by trying to understand this verse, Shruti Smriti Puranadi Pancharatra Vidim Vina Aikantiki Harer Bhaktir Utpata Eva Kalpate. How, without following the rules, if one tries to practice bhakti, it gives to Utpata. And we saw the example of Buddha, Lord Buddha and Dattatreya in this context we discussed. Even though they are incarnations, but because they taught a particular sub-religious principles, which is not the conclusion of the Shastras, it is fit to be rejected. And moreover, they themselves rejected the scriptures. So therefore, it is fit to reject their teachings. We don't reject them as being bogus, but the teachings in essence are bogus, but for a particular purpose. Just like sometimes you may have to tell a lie to a child. A child is spending too much time with the, my sister does this. When the child is trying to spend too much time with the cell phone, smartphone, she gives her the smartphone, goes to the other room and calls from a different number, and she has told that the police will call. The police will know, they have a tracking system by which they will immediately know when you are taking a phone in your hand. So she will go to the other room and call the child, and immediately the child will get scared and she will come and hand over the phone to the mother. So even though here the statement that a police is tracking you is a false statement, but the false statement is spoken for a specific proper purpose of taking an object of distraction away from the child, which is not very conducive for the child's growth. In the same way, Lord Buddha came because many people were using the teachings of the scriptures to actually propagate meat eating. indiscriminate meat eating, killing animals, slaughterhouses and all that. So there was a specific purpose, there was a specific sense of urgency, and it was supposed to be a tatkal dharma, it was supposed to be an emergency thing, like the emergency lockdown that we tried to understand. But otherwise, one should not try to propagate a system which rejects the scriptures. Even though from an external point of view it may seem like that such a person is having lot of affection for the Lord, is doing all, and his practice may be very steady, but if it is rejecting the conclusions of the scriptures, then we do not accept it. And nor does Krishna accepts it. Krishna rejects such a practice of bhakti. So this is where we ended our discussion yesterday. So we will now continue with the fifth limb of bhakti, which is Saddharma Pracha. Saddharma Pracha means inquiry about the practice of devotional service. That is Saddharma. Nana Shastra Vicharanaika Nipunau Saddharma Samstapakau Lokanam Hitakarinau Tribhuvane Manyau Sharanya Karau. In this way, the six Goswamis are glorified. Nana Shastra Vicharanaika Nipunau. They are glorified as being expert in all the Shastras. And the real glory of the unprecedented glory of the six Goswamis, especially Srila Rupa Goswami, Sanatana Goswami, Srila Jiva Goswami, who have extensively written books, the greatness, the unprecedented greatness of these six Goswamis is that Saddharma Samstapakau. They have presented the pure teachings of bhakti in their books. Like if you see, the scriptures are a very complex tapestry of some elements of karma, some elements of jnana, some elements of yoga, some elements of bhakti. It's like a sari which is made with some green threads, some red threads, some blue threads, some white threads. So to make such a sari is difficult. But what if someone says, look, you will have to now dismantle this whole sari and separate the green threads, red threads, blue threads and white threads separately. It's an almost impossible task. But that's exactly what the Goswamis have done. They have taken these scriptures and because of their naipunya, because of their expertise in understanding the scriptures through the eyes of devotion, they have been able to extract the threads of bhakti from this complex tapestry of karma, jnana, yoga and bhakti. And then they have presented pure bhakti teachings. This is unprecedented and no one has ever done this before. Like for example, just to give an example of how the Shastras are a complex tapestry. Of course, I am taking a very easy scripture to describe this. In this, bhakti is very clearly presented, but nevertheless, if you see Bhagavad Gita, Krishna at one place he says, Karmanyevadikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana ma karma phala heturbur ma te sangostva karmani. He is glorifying Nishkama Karma Yoga here. Elsewhere, he says that Sahayagya praja srishtva purovacha prajapati anena prashavishadvam eshavosthu ishtakama. Or he says, if you fight, you will win. If you fight and win, you will get hatova prapsasi swargam jitvava bokshase mahim. So he says that if you win, O Arjuna, you will get the kingdom. And if you lose, you will get swarga. Wonderful. He is glorifying sakama karma. Elsewhere he says, Durena hi avaram karma, buddhi yoga dhananjaya, buddhau sharanam anvicha kripanaha phala hetava. Elsewhere he is criticizing sakama karma by telling kripanaha phalahetava. One who tries to perform an activity desiring fruits, he is a kripana. Like that he criticizes. And elsewhere he glorifies the path of jnana by telling that nahi jnanena sadrisham pavitram ida iha vidyate tatsvayam yoga samsiddhir kalena atmani vindati. Like that, in such verses he glorifies jnana, but elsewhere he actually glorifies karma, comparing it with jnana also. He says yet sankyascha karma yogascha, he says that both the path of jnana and karma can actually lead you to tayostu karma sannyasat karma yogo vishishyate. He says sannyasa karma yogascha nishreyasa karavubhav tayostu karma sannyasat karma yogo vishishyate. In this way Krishna glorifies karma over jnana, and elsewhere he talks about glorification of bhakti also. In the same Bhagavad Gita, patram pushpam phalam toyam yo me bhaktya prayachati tadaham bhakti upahritam ashnami prayatatmanah yoginam api sarvesham madgate nantaratmana saddhavan bhajate yo mam same yukta tamo mata. Like that he, so in Bhagavad Gita you see there is glorification of literally everything. If you think he has glorified bhakti, in the very previous verse he glorifies the yogi also. Tapasvibhyo diko yogi jnanibhyopi matodikah karmibhyaschadiko yogi tasmad yogi bhavarjuna. Like that he says. So in this way, if you see, it's a complex tapestry of karma, jnana, yoga, bhakti. But ultimately the six Goswamis are Nana Shastra Vicharanaika Nipunau. They are expert in understanding the conclusions of the scriptures. So therefore, they have dismantled this complex tapestry into the karma thread, jnana thread, yoga thread, bhakti thread, collected all the bhakti threads separately and weaved a beautiful tapestry of bhakti through their books like Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu, Madhurya Kadambini, and so many Amnaya Sutra or Bhajana Rahasya, Nectar of Devotion. So they have presented these books while extracting all the bhakti threads, and so that we don't have to do any research. They have done all the research and presented us. And this what they have done is an unprecedented work. No one has done it in such a lucid way. Presenting literatures while extracting from the Vedic literatures, they have presented literatures where very clearly the process of bhakti is described. How to practice bhakti, why to practice bhakti, how is bhakti superior to the other processes. They have done it beautifully through their writings. So Sadharma Pricha, inquiry into bhakti. That is the valid inquiry. So in order to establish this point, Srila Rupa Goswami quotes from the Naradiya Purana. Achiradeva sarvartah siddhyatyesham abhipsatah saddharmasyava bodhaya yesham nirbandhini matihi. He says, yesham nirbandhini matihi, those whose minds are completely attached. Saddharmasya avabodhaya. Saddharma is bhakti. Saddharma samstapakau. Because sad also refers to devotees. So, Saddharma means the dharma of the devotees, which is devotional service. Saddharmasya avabodhaya. Those whose minds are attached to understanding what is Saddharma, what is this bhakti, how do I understand bhakti? Achiradeva siddhyati. Such people very quickly attain Yesham sarva abhipsito artha. They attain all their cherished goals just by this desire to inquire into the path of bhakti. Just if they have a, then what to speak of actually inquiring about the path of bhakti? If just the desire to inquire into the path of bhakti can give so much benefit, what will one get by actually making such an inquiry? And how much more benefit if that person makes the genuine inquiry to a bona fide spiritual master? And how much more beneficial is it if that spiritual master accepts this person and teaches him about the science of bhakti? And how much more beneficial is if he accepts that teaching and starts practicing that bhakti? But here this verse talks about the most preliminary stage. Even if one develops a desire to inquire into the science of bhakti, even such a person achieves all his goals. So therefore, the path, the limb of Sadharma Pricha, inquiry into the path of bhakti, is glorified here. So this is exactly Krishna in the 4th chapter of Bhagavad Gita describes about Nishkama Karma Yoga and about how Nishkama Karma Yoga leads to Jnana and all that. And then he comes about Atma Gyan. And after describing about Atma Gyan, he says, but if you want to understand the Paramatma Gyan or understand the knowledge about the absolute truth, then you have to surrender to a guru and inquire from him. He says, very famous verse you all might know, Tadvidi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya upadekshanti te jnanam jnaninas tattvadarshina. He says, Tadvidi pranipatena. If you want to know Tad, Tad refers to the Supreme Lord, as in Tattvamasi. So, Tad refers to the Supreme Lord. Tad Vidhi, know that Supreme Lord. How? Pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya. Pranipat means to humbly surrender to Guru. Pariprashna means to is Sadharma Pricha. And Sevaya means serving the Supreme, serving the Guru. So, 3 limbs he has mentioned here. Pranipatena refers to Guru Padashraya and Krishna Dikshadi Sikshanam, both. And second, Pariprashna refers to Sadharma Pricha. And the third, Sevaya refers to Vishrambena Gurur Seva. In this way, 4 of the limbs are indicated here. Tadvidhi, Pranipatena, Pariprashnena, Sevaya, Upadekshanti. Upadekshanti means they will teach you this knowledge. Take Jnanam. Jnaninas Tattvadarshina. Because they are Tattvadarshis, they will teach you this knowledge. That is what is indicated by the word Upadekshanti. So, Upadekshanti means if the disciple is very sincere and very submissive, then the word Upadekshanti is used in conjunction with the word Jnana. Upadekshanti means not giving completely. When the Guru sees the inclination to serve in the disciple, sincere inclination, whatever he knows without holding anything back, he gives it. Upadekshanti. Like there is a Pankti Vidhi. Like if someone is sitting, I'll tell you a story to explain this word Upadekshanti. There is a Rishi by the name Pulastya. So this Pulastya Rishi, just like, and his brother is Agastya. Agastya and Pulastya. So Agastya Rishi is known to, he has the capacity to drink the whole ocean completely or a whole river completely. He has unlimited capacity to drink. Similarly, Pulastya Rishi has unlimited capacity to eat. How much ever you cook, he can eat. So one day, Pulastya Rishi approaches Lord Shiva actually Mother Parvati. And he says, my dear mother, you are the mother of this whole universe. As it is mentioned, Jagatap Pitarau Vande Parvati Parameshwarau. So in one sense, because they take care of the practical functions of this universe, Lord Shiva and Parvati are also sometimes addressed as the parents of this universe. So he approaches Mother Parvati and he says, my dear mother, I have eaten from different people's hands, but as a mother you have never personally cooked for me and fed me. This is a very deep regret I have in my heart. So Mother Parvati becomes a little embarrassed and she says, okay, you come tomorrow along with your disciples and I will feed you tomorrow. So he says, Pulastya Muni says, thank you very much, I will come for lunch right on time. So Mother Parvati goes and informs Lord Shiva that Pulastya Muni is coming tomorrow, I am going to cook. And Lord Shiva knows about Pulastya Muni's appetite. He knows how much Pulastya Muni can eat. He says, why did you commit to cooking? Because no one can cook for him. Because how much ever you cook, he will eat all of that. And he will ask for more. Aniyor, he will ask for more. What are you going to do? And Mother Parvati is in anxiety. What will I do now? So then Lord Shiva says, okay, don't worry. I know one person who can help. So he goes to Krishna. And he falls at Krishna's feet and he says, Krishna, please help me. I am in deep trouble. So Lord Krishna says, don't worry, you go back. I will help you tomorrow. Let Pulastya come with his disciples. So Pulastya comes, all his disciples come, they all sit in a row. And Pulastya always sits at the end of the row. Why? Because the Pankti Vidhi is such that when the prasad is being served, at the last person, to the last person you have to empty the bucket. Whatever is there, it all has to be emptied in that, leaf. That is, you cannot carry there is no second serving as such. Only once it comes. He says, I will be the last person sitting. Whatever is left over, everything should come to my plate. And then I should say that I am satisfied. Then it is like that. So Pulastya Rishi goes and sits at the end. Then the Pankti is just starting. Lord Shiva and Parvati are in intense anxiety because Krishna has not come. They have started serving. And still Krishna is not to be seen. And suddenly from nowhere Krishna comes running and he comes and sits next to Pulastya Rishi. So now Pulastya Rishi protests, no, stop the serving. I want to be the last person sitting. So Krishna asks, why? Because, I want to get all that is left over, I should be eating. So he says, don't worry, I will tell the server that you don't empty the bucket in my leaf, empty it in Pulastya Muni's leaf. So let me sit where I am sitting. So Pulastya Muni says, okay, no problem. Now you can serve. So they all serve and Krishna, true to his promise, he says, look, give me a little bit and empty the rest in Pulastya Muni's leaf. So Pulastya Muni, everyone starts eating. So this is Upadekshanti. Whatever is left over, that is served. So nothing should be kept for oneself. So similarly, the Guru does not, for an affectionate disciple, he does not hold anything for himself. So now coming back to the story, so like that the serving continues and suddenly when everyone is honoring the prasadam, Krishna immediately gets up and starts walking to wash his hands. Because the second Pankti Vidhi is that when the last person gets up, then the Pankti is over, everyone should immediately get up. They can't continue to eat once the last person gets up. So Krishna gets up and Pulastya Muni says, "Arey, how can you get up? I have not yet completed." He says, "No, I have to really rush and my stomach is full. And anyway, I am the last person. I was the last person to be served. So you all had sufficient time to eat." And then he gets up and walks. So now Pulastya Muni cannot eat further. So because he cannot eat further, he cannot complain that you have not properly fed me. Because they will say, "Arey, your leaf is still filled with so much prasadam. How can you say that we have not fed you?" So in this way, Krishna protects Lord Shiva and Parvati from Pulastya Muni. So this Upadekshanti, this is, in the Pankti Vidhi, this is one of the Pankti Vidhis. That they should not keep anything. The last person should get all of that. So it's just like post monsoon, the last rain that comes, it's generally a heavy shower. Because whatever leftover water is there in the clouds, it showers all of that and then leaves. Or just like the vegetable vendor. Generally, if you go for vegetable purchase at 9 p.m. at night, you will get it at half the price or 1/4 the price, or some vendors may give it to you free of cost also, because they want to, just shut their shop and go away, because they know no one else will come. So they will give it to you at take away price. Whatever you can give, you give and take it away. Take it from the shop, like that. So in this way, the Guru, when he is pleased with the pleasant qualities of the disciple, they open their heart and give everything. That is the meaning of Upadekshanti. Upadekshanti te jnanam jnaninas tattvadarshina. That is the mode of giving. So Srila Baldev Vidyabhushan, commenting on this verse, he says, "The Lord now teaches knowledge of worshipping the Lord Swarupa. To attain this knowledge, a person must take association with devotees." That he teaches in this verse. Devotees here specifically means the Guru. Pranipata means offering respects like Dandavat. Seva means serving the devotees like menial servants, performing some menial service to the devotees. Pariprashna means to ask various questions about the Lord's form, qualities and power. This is the meaning of Pariprashna. Means Paripurna Prashna. Or Pari also, the prefix Pari in Sanskrit indicates the English prefix peri, as in perimeter, from all the sides. So Pariprashna means to inquire from all the sides about the nature of bhakti, meaning Sambandha, Abhideya and Prayojana. That is Pariprashna. What is the Sambandha Gyan? So what is the Prayojan, and what is the means of attaining that Prayojan, the Abhideya? What is it? But someone may say, but how will these people teach us? Why would this spiritual masters teach us? Because they are practically indifferent to this world. So he says, no. These men with knowledge of their own Atma, they also understand and they have realized the Supreme Atma, and they are also capable of seeing your sincere desire in understanding this subject matter. How? Through your Pariprashna, Pranipata, Pariprashna and Seva. Through your sincere surrender, through your sincere inquiry and through your sincere service, they can understand what is there in your heart. And being very pleased with your service attitude and your sincere inquiry, whatever they have, they will open and give it to you. Upadekshanti. They will not keep anything. It is all given to you. So the Shaunakadi Rishis also, they indicate to Suta Goswami, Guravo Guhyam Apyuta. Oh Suta Goswami, you must know all the essential knowledge because you had such wonderful qualities, and with your wonderful qualities you must have definitely pleased your Guru, and he must have opened the secret of his heart to you. Guravo Guhyam Apyuta. Therefore you please share that knowledge with me, with us. And Srila Prabhupada also commenting in his purport to this verse, Tadvidhi Pranipatena, he says, one has to approach a bona fide spiritual master to receive the knowledge. Such a spiritual master should be accepted in full surrender, pranipata, and one should serve the spiritual master like a menial servant, sevaya, without false prestige. Satisfaction of the self-realized spiritual master is the secret of advancement in spiritual life. Yasya prasadat bhagavat prasado, yasya aprasadat na gati kutopi. So, if the spiritual master is pleased, Krishna is pleased. If the spiritual master is displeased, how much ever we may break our head, we cannot please Krishna. Therefore, dhyayan stuvam tasya yashastri sandhyam vande guru shri charanaravindam. One should meditate upon, one should glorify his glories at least 3 times a day during the 3 sandhyas. Start with 3 sandhyas and slowly throughout the day we should be glorifying the Guru. That's what Prabhupada is indicating here. Inquiries and submission constitute the proper combination of spiritual understanding. Inquiries, one should inquire, but submission should be there. It should not be done in a challenging spirit. Oh, let me see if he knows. I will test him. Not in that mood. Submission. He knows, I don't know. I will gratefully accept whatever he reveals to me, and I will serve him to please him. That is my goal. When that mood is there in the disciple, then he can access the deep secrets of the path of bhakti from the Guru. Unless there is submission and service, inquiries from the learned spiritual master will not be effective. One must be able to pass the test of the spiritual master, and when he sees the genuine desire of the disciple, he automatically blesses the disciple with genuine spiritual understanding. In this verse, both blind following and absurd inquiries are condemned. Blind following is condemned because he says, pariprashna, you should inquire, not just follow. And absurd inquiry is condemned by indicating pranipata and sevaya. Because that one with absurd inquiries will not have an inclination to serve and submit himself to the Guru. He will have an absurd attitude also. Not only should one hear submissively from the spiritual master, but one must also get a clear understanding from him in submission and service and inquiries. So in this way, he should approach the spiritual master. Sadharma pracha is indicated here. So a bona fide spiritual master is very kind by nature towards the disciple. Therefore, when the student is submissive and is always ready to render service, the reciprocation of knowledge and inquiries become perfect. And we see this throughout Bhagavatam in various stories, whether it is Swayambhuva Manu's submission to Brahmaji or Brahmaji's submission to Lord Narayan or Narada Muni's submission to Brahmaji or Parikshit Maharaj's submission to Shukadeva Goswami or Maitreya's submission to Vidura's submission to Maitreya. So, if you see, very powerful, very nicely he submits Vidura to Maitreya. Yascha mudatama loke, yascha buddhim param, yascha buddhehe param gataha, tavu bhav sukhamedete klishyati antarito jana. I am a fallen soul. Neither am I a materialist. I have understood the glories of bhakti. But at the same time, nor am I a perfected devotee also. I am in between, so I am tormented. So please help me by giving me some spiritual knowledge and help me progress on the path of bhakti. This is how Vidura is approaching Maitreya. And then Pariprashna also he does. And then Seva also he does. In one of the verses he says, that I have understood, theoretically understood, whatever you have taught me, but practical understanding I don't have right now. But I know of a means of getting this practical understanding, and he says that is by serving you. By serving you, I will practically realize whatever I have heard and understood from you. In this way, he tells Maitreya Muni. Pariprashna, pranipata, pariprashna and sevaya. Like that. That is the fifth limb of Sadharma Pricha. Then the sixth limb is Krishnarte Bhogadityaga. Bhogadityaga Krishnasya Hetave. Renouncing enjoyment for the pleasure of Krishna. So he says, he quotes a verse from the Padma Purana. Harim uddishya bhogani kale tyaktavatastava vishnulokastita sampad alolasa pratikshate. He says, bhogani tyaktavata, one who gives up the opportunity for sense gratification. Kale, at the time when that enjoyment is actually available. So it is not like today I am a beggar and you say that tomorrow, Krishna, even if someone gives me $1 million, I will not give up Krishna Bhakti. Very good sentiment, but when one actually gives one $1 million and when the $1 million is there in that plate, and then Krishna Bhakti is there on the other plate, will we choose Krishna Bhakti over the $1 million? So therefore he says, Kale, means when that opportunity is knocking your door, will you say no to that opportunity and accept Krishna Bhakti? So Bhogani Tyaktavatas Kale Harim Uddishya, with the desire to please Lord Hari. Krishna never forgets. Krishna never makes such a person suffer, because he has given great opportunities for material enjoyment, for the pleasure of Krishna. Krishna does not deprive that person. He will give him alola sampad, the permanent wealth. Lola means temporary. That is the nature of material bhoga. As Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, yehi samsparshaja bhoga dukkha yonaye evate adyantavanta kaunteya nateshu ramate buddha. He says the nature of this material enjoyment. What is material enjoyment? When the senses come in touch with sense objects, some pleasure the mind experiences. But he says, dukkha yonaye evate. It has the seed of suffering in that, or it acts as the womb for suffering. A womb carefully develops the embryo into a full-fledged child. So similarly, that bhoga, that opportunity for enjoyment, acts as the womb for carefully nurturing and developing the child of dukkha, suffering. Adi antavanta. How that dukkha manifests? That bhoga has a beginning, that enjoyment has a beginning and it has an end. So while one is enjoying, one cannot completely enjoy because he knows that I cannot enjoy it permanently. So therefore, even at that time there is some dukkha which is mixed with that sukha. And eventually when it actually ends, then he becomes very despondent. That is also a problem. So, yehi samsparshaja bhoga dukkha yonaye evate adi antavanta kaunteya nateshu ramate buddha. Therefore, intelligent persons, they don't try to take pleasure in enjoying such material objects. So Krishna, but Krishna becomes grateful to a person who gives up such kind of temporary, distressful material objects also. If one gives for the pleasure of Krishna, Krishna takes that very seriously, and in return he gives them alola sampad, the permanent wealth. What is that permanent wealth? Vishnu loka stita, of being situated in Vishnu loka. pratikshate, it awaits that person. So Krishna personally offers it. Salokya sarshti samipya sarupya ekatvam apyuta. So all of that he is willing to offer it. If you, it is like a person uh, giving up some rotten food, 1 or 2 day old food, for accepting Chappan Bhog, and the Supreme Lord being very grateful. Oh, you gave that thing up for me, so here take permanent Chappan Bhog. He gives him a place for staying in the spiritual world. So therefore, Krishnarte Bhogadityaga. Bhogadityaga Krishnasya hetave. If one gives up an opportunity for sense enjoyment, for pleasing Krishna, Krishna never lets that devotee suffer. He will give him superlative happiness that is guaranteed. That is what Krishna promises. Tesham nityabhiyuktanam yogakshemam vahami aham. Like that. So this is the sixth limb, Bhogadityaga Krishnasya hetave. The seventh limb is Nivaso Dwarakadavva Gangaderapi Sannidau. Staying in a holy place like Dwaraka, Mathura, Vrindavan, or the banks of a holy rivers like Ganga, Yamuna. So this is one of the very important limbs. So Rupa Goswami quotes a verse from the Skanda Puran. He says, Samvatsaram va sanma shanmasan masam masardameva va dvarakavasinas sarve nara naryas chaturbujaha. He says, Samvatsaram, for 1 year. No. Shad masam, for 6 months. No. Masam, 1 month. Not even that. Masa ardham, half a month. Evava. If one may stay for a year or a half a year or 1 month or even half a month, Dwaraka Vasina, if he chooses to stay in Dwaraka or other such holy places, Sarve Nara Naryas Chaturbuja, whether it may be a male or a female at the end of his life, with faith. This is the most important thing, as we discussed on the other day. Faith is the most important thing. One should trust that while I am staying here, this act of staying in this holy place is so special that it is going to give me an eternal place in the spiritual world. Actually, this place is non-different from spiritual world. I am so grateful to have had this opportunity to stay in this holy place. With that faith, if one stays in that particular place, then it will have an effect. So it is all dependent on how much trust we have, how much faith we have, how strong is our faith. The stronger the faith, the most simplest of devotional activity can give unlimited benefit. But if that same faith is very weak, then the most laborious of devotional service, devotional activity can give very minimal benefit. This is true with devotion, this is true with karma, jnana, yoga, anything. As we saw the other day, Ashraddaya hutam dattam tapastaptam kritam chayat asaditi uchyate partha nachatat pretya noyah, Krishna says. It is all asad. If you don't do it with faith, it is as good as not doing it, because it will not give any result in this life or next life. So therefore, these 64 limbs may seem, 15 days only, na? 15 days I can go and stay in any dham. In my next vacation I will go and stay. But one should have that kind of an appreciation for that particular limb of devotional service. If that superlative level of faith and appreciation is there, then that limb will definitely, so that's what he is mentioning here. Samvatsaram va shadmasan masam masardam eva va dwaraka vasinas sarve nara naryas chaturbuja. They will become 400, they will get 400 form and go back to the spiritual world. And this is about staying in Dwaraka or a holy place. What about staying in a river close to a holy river? That is also very glorious. He quotes from the first canto, 19th chapter, last chapter of first canto, this famous verse glorifying Ganga. Ya vailasat Shri Tulasi Vimrishra Krishnangri Renu Abhyadikambunetri Punati Seshanubayatra Lokan Kastam na seveta marishyamanaha. So, this is a glorification of Ganga. But Jiva Goswami says, no, this is a glorification of Yamuna. So, and he proves also. But let's try to understand this verse. He says, Kaha marishyamanaha. Which person who is at the time of death, tam na seveta, would not serve Ganga or Yamuna. Ya. And what is so special about Ganga or Yamuna? Ya, that river, Ganga or Yamuna. Ambu Netri, Ambu is water, Netri means carrier. One may say, Ambu Netri, every river is Ambu Netri, every river carries water. What is so special about Ganga and Yamuna? He says, Abhyadika. She is not carrying ordinary water, she is carrying special water. That which has been made special. What is so special? Is she carrying some Nimbu Pani? Or is she carrying some Amras? What is so special about this Ambu? Abhyadika. Why you are calling it Abhyadika? Special. He says, Krishna Angri Renu. So, Krishna Angri Renu. It has the foot dust of Krishna. So, Jiva Goswami says, look, the word Krishnangri Renu is used. So, you may say, yes, that refers to Ganga ji. Because when Lord Vamana took the form of Trivikrama and pierced the 7 layers of earth and Ganga, and it touched the causal ocean, Karana Jala, and Karana Jala flowed down along with the foot dust of Trivikrama. So therefore, she is Krishnangri Renu. Why not Yamuna? In the case of Trivikrama, once he pierced. But Krishna, for so many years, he played in Yamuna every day, took bath in, right from the day of his birth. On the day of his birth, when Vasudeva was carrying Krishna on the basket, Yamuna immediately jumped over to take the foot dust of Krishna. So she overflowed, touched the foot and then receded back. Right from day one, on the day of his birth, every single day Yamuna has been getting the foot dust of Krishna. So Krishnangri Renu Abhyadika Ambunetri more perfectly fits Yamuna. Krishnangri Renu Abhyadikambunetri. And not only that, Lasat Shri Tulasi Vimishra, and Krishna's lotus feet has Tulasi, and the Tulasi also makes it additionally special. Punati Lokan, and she has, and because of which she purifies all the 3 worlds. And in Garga Samhita, there is a description of the path of Yamuna. She flows through, she also similarly like Ganga, she flows through the same hole that Trivikrama created, and then she flows to this material world, more or less following the same route. So, she is also Punati Lokan Ubhayatra. Ubhayatra Lokan. Ubhayatra Lokan means she above and below. Sa Ishan, along with the leaders of those planets, she purifies. Punati Lokan Ubhayatra Seshan Kastamna Seveta Marishyamanaha. Therefore, why would someone not worship Mother Ganga or Mother Yamuna? And Jiva Goswami says, look, it says Krishnangri Renu, so it must refer to Yamuna. And also geographically, if you see, Parikshit Maharaj was ruling in Hastinapur, that was his capital, which is current close to Delhi. And the river that flows geographically closest to Delhi is actually Yamuna and not Ganga. So therefore Jiva Goswami says that uh, Parikshit Maharaj must have fasted on the banks of Yamuna only, and Yamuna is also Krishnangri Renu Abhyadika Ambunetri Kastam na seveta marishyamanaha. Therefore, which person at the time of death would not serve? What to speak of at time of death, even during while one lives also, because one never knows when death would come. So at every opportunity that one gets, one should worship and serve Mother Yamuna. And if you see a good portion of Delhi, in their taps they get Yamuna water every day. What a fortune. If only that person had that kind of appreciation that Parikshit Maharaj had for Mother Yamuna, that Shukadeva Goswami had for Mother Yamuna. With that appreciation, if one would take bath even in the tap water, that is so glorious. He is performing the seventh limb of bhakti, and that one limb and one of the most important limbs of bhakti. And he can get purified, he can progress. So this is the seventh limb. And the word Adi indicates Puri also, as illustrated from Brahma Puran. The glory of Puri with its surrounding area of 80 miles is inconceivable. The Devatas see everyone residing there as having 4 arms. When the Devatas see the Puri Nivasis, the residents of Puri, they actually see that they actually have 4 arms, which means they are getting ready to go back home, back to Vaikunta. So therefore, Nivaso Dwarakadavva Gangaderapi Sannidau. It's a very potent limb, which is the 7th limb of bhakti. 8th limb, Yavad Artha Anuvartita. Yavad Artha Anuvartita means accepting only that much which is needed to keep the body and soul together, so that the rest of the time can be utilized in serving Krishna. So he quotes a verse from the Naradiya Puran. He says, Yavata syat svanirvahaha swikuryat tavadartavit adikye nyunatayam cha chavate paramartataha. So he says, Yavata syat svanirvahaha. Svanirvahaha means for maintenance of one's body so that one can practice bhakti. Yavata syat, only that much that is needed. Tavat swikuryat, only that much he should accept. Adikye nyunatayam cha. Adikye means accepting more. Nyunatayam cha means accepting less than that. Chavate paramartataha. If he accepts more or less, he will fall down from attaining his goal, or he will be unsuccessful in attaining his goal. So whatever is needed to keep one's body and soul together so that he can comfortably perform bhakti, that much should be accepted. And only that much should be accepted. Over endeavoring is called as prayas. And that kind of a prayas is not very favorable for practice of bhakti. So, Srila Shukadeva Goswami in the second canto of Srimad Bhagavatam presents a very high level of what does it mean to accept only that which is needed for keeping the body and soul together. He says, Satyam kshitau kim kashipo prayasair bahau swasiddhe hyupabarhanai kim satyanjalau kim purudanna patrya digval kaladau sati kim dukulaihi. Of course, this he is talking about a yogi, but for devotees, such kind of austerities is not needed. But the essence that one should accept only that much, one should accept for need and not for luxury. That principle is universal. But for yogis, the level of austerity might be high, and for devotees, that kind of austerities need not necessarily be accepted. But the principle is, don't accept for luxury, accept for need. He says, Satyam Kshitau Kim Kashipo Prayasair. Ground is there, you can lie down. Why do you need a bed? Bahausva Siddhehi Upabarhanai Kim. When you have your hands and you can put your head on the hands and sleep, why do you need a pillow? Satyanjalau Kim Puruda Annapatra. You have your two hands, you can pluck a fruit and eat, or you can cup the water that is flowing in the rivers with your hands and drink. When two hands are there, why do you need various kinds of vessels? Digvalkaladau Satikim Dukulai. So he says, when you have the four directions to dress yourself, why do you need dress? Four directions means literally, why do you need dress at all? But someone may say, oh, I am feeling little shy. Okay, tree barks are available. Valkala. So the tree barks are available, you can dress if you are feeling shy. Dress yourself in tree barks. So basically simplify your life so that because to maintain such a lifestyle, you don't have to work. You can spend all your time performing bhakti. But of course, we are a severely pampered lot, especially in this age of Kali Yuga, and especially in today's age of nauseating consumerism. We are a severely pampered lot. That kind of austerity is not needed. But whatever we can, we should not accept beyond a particular level, beyond which we will get distracted from worshipping Krishna. So and in the next verse he says, but someone may say, oh, I can wear tree barks even though it is very uncomfortable, but during winter tree barks will not be warm enough because they will not properly fit my body. He says, Chiranikim Patina Santi. There will be some discarded clothes that you can find on the streets. Take them, wash them nicely, wear them. Chiranikim Patina Santi. And then he says that, but what will I do for filling my stomach? Naivangripa Dishanti Bhiksham. Have the trees stopped giving in charity? In any forest, find a fruit tree, pluck a fruit, eat. Have they stopped giving charity? Saritopya Sushyan. And what will I drink? He says, have the rivers gone dry? Rivers are flowing. Of course, today's rivers are flowing with all the chemicals. So if you have to have clean water, then you will have to go and stay in the Himalayas only. There you can get clean river water. Where will I stay? At least I need a place to stay. He says, Ruddha Guhakim. Have all the caves already been occupied by some other resident? So, Ruddha Guhakim. But someone may say, okay, the caves are there, but if only I stay in the cave, it's okay. What if a tiger or a snake wants to share that cave with me? Who will ensure my protection? He says, Ajito Avatina Upasannan. Has Krishna forgotten his promise to protect his devotees? Kaunteya Pratijanehi Name Bhakta Pranashyati. Has Krishna forgotten that promise? So practically, Shukadeva Goswami does not give us a choice only. Kasmat bhajanti kavayo dhanadurmadandan. Therefore, why should the wise people worship the rich men, those who have been blinded by wealth? Why should we worship such people for our own maintenance? Accept whatever is needed to live a simple life, and then use rest of the time anxiety free for worshipping the Supreme Lord. That is ideal life. So here, Srila Prabhupada in his purport, I will read some sections of the purport. One must, Prabhupada says, advancement of human civilization must be towards the goal of establishing our lost relationship with God, which is not possible in any form of life other than the human form. One must realize the nullity of the material phenomenon, considering it as a passing phantasmagoria, and must endeavor to make a solution to the miseries of life. The purpose of life is to end all these miseries. But within that miseries, we are trying to search for pleasure. As it is mentioned in Bhagavatam, Narakastopi deham vai puman na tyaktum ichchati. Even in Naraka, a person does not want to give up that body and give up that hell. Because even within that Naraka, he has found some temporary, small kinds of pleasures. So, therefore, how will you convince such a person to leave? You are seeing from a higher vantage point that this is Naraka, you are suffering so much. But that person is busy searching for some happiness within that Naraka. How will he become convinced that there could be a better reality somewhere else? So, this is the problem. So, therefore, if we become satisfied searching for small pockets of enjoyment within this material world, then how are we going to accept the spiritual message and try to practice it with sincerity and due diligence? So therefore, Prabhupada is telling that one must realize the nullity of material phenomenon. Therefore, time and again situations like this, COVID situation, will force us to think in that direction. What am I doing here? Just like, you have this situation where one is walking in a village and he passes through a forest area and he slips and falls into a blind well. And while he has slipped and fallen into this blind well, and which has no water, so he is going to die. And suddenly he finds a creeper and he holds on to that creeper. And he looks down, he sees that there is a very poisonous cobra waiting there. And then he looks up and there is a tiger waiting up. Okay, you come up and I will eat you. And then he is like, what will I do now? And then he sees that a small rat is actually biting that creeper and it is going to snap and fall down at any time. And in the meantime, he experiences some liquid falling on his face and he uses his other hand to see what it is. It is some honey and he sees that there is a beehive there and there is some honey dripping from that beehive. So he just opens his mouth and starts tasting that honey. And he says, wow, this is wonderful. And then he forgets that there is a rat that is gnawing that creeper, and if he falls down, he will be bitten by that snake. So he forgets all that and he starts just enjoying that honey. That is the situation of all of us. Not understanding how precarious the situation that we are in. We are just busy, we are just trying to busy ourselves in the temporary low grade pleasure of material enjoyment. So unless we are convinced of the nullity of material phenomenon, then it's very difficult to consider spiritual life as being important. He says self-complacence with a polished type of animal civilization. Very powerful words. I will read again. Self-complacence with a polished type of animal civilization geared to sense gratification is delusion. And Krishna sends these kind of emergency situations to show, to give a glimpse of its delusion. and such a civilization is not worthy of the name. In pursuit of such false activities, a human being is in the clutches of Maya or illusion. Great sages and saints in the days of yore were not living in palatial buildings furnished with good furniture and so-called amenities of life. So Prabhupada gives the example of the 6 Goswamis that they used to live below a different tree every day. So, you know, Kaupina Kantashritau, it is mentioned about the 6 Goswamis. They used to wear simple discarded cloth as their lower cloth and then live in below one tree. But Prabhupada says, but they gave tremendous amount of literature which are of practical value, which have the potency of transporting that person from this material world to the spiritual world. Therefore, kasmat bhajanti kavayo dana durmadandan. Therefore, he says that one should not try to accept the renounced order of life if one cannot contribute in the form of literatures. We are not in the renounced order of life to be ordinary beggars, begging for some roti to fill our stomach. So he says, if you, the renounced order of life is not to take, the renounced order of life is to give. If one cannot give that spiritual knowledge and enlighten people, then he has no business accepting roti dal or roti sabji and just filling his stomach. He says, better work, better do, better honorably work for your own maintenance rather than begging if you have nothing valuable to give. That is life of renunciation. So in this way, we discuss this 8th, Yavad Artha Anuvartita, accepting only what is barely needed to keep one's body and soul together, so that one has all the time to perform devotional service towards the Supreme Lord. So in this way, we have completed 4 further limbs. I am sorry I took little extra time, and the subsequent limbs we may not spend so much time because time is running short. So whatever we can see little elaborately, we will see. Others we will just touch and we will move ahead. So thank you again very much for your very patient listening. You have been listening patiently for so many days. I express my deep gratitude for your patient listening. Thank you very much. I'm praying for your association in the coming days also. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srila Rupa Goswami Pad ki jai. Shri Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu ki jai. Hare Krishna.